Hello and welcome to this week's 60 Minutes with Scottish Self-Build and Renovation. My name is Gavin Esselmont. I'm very happy to be introducing this online programme. Thanks very much for joining us. Before we get started, I just wanted to check that you can hear us okay and see us okay. We know each time we host these online programmes that we have people tuning in from all over the world and overseas as well. So if you do see us and hear us, please just comment in the comments feed wherever you're watching, and maybe just for a bit of fun, just say where you're listening from. If you're listening from Aberdeen, Inverness, wherever, just pop in the comments feed your city or town. And by the way, if you're tuning in from our Facebook community group, remember that to provide our streaming partners StreamYard permission to see your comments. The link is provided at the top of the page. When you are currently watching this. So, and also if you have anything else to say throughout the program, just let us know. Just pop it in the comments stream. Ask us. We will be checking that all the way through the session, and we'll come back to you during the program. So, and finally, just a word of warning: this program is being recorded and will be made available across all our social media channels and on our website as well. So this week, we will be exploring why a self-build or renovation is the best way to upsize even. I'm delighted to introduce Richard Tinto, the owner and vision guy at Tinto Architecture. Richard stumbled into his career after dreaming of being an architect since he was a boy, but had no chance of entering university the conventional way at the time, by his own admission. He got the chance to do a modern apprenticeship in architectural technology. He loved it, stuck in it, and emerged in 2003 with a degree in architectural technology from the RGU in Aberdeen. He continued to build his career until 2013, when his life changed. He met his wife, and he redefined his purpose and started building the brand Tinto. He believes that architects should be leading a revolution in building and securing the future success of architecture and better buildings. Away from Tinto, Richard is a dad, a husband, and a much more of a family man than he has ever been. Again, his own admission. He has a dream to work from the sun, don't we all? Consulting, coaching, and advising the best talent in the industry, and only retire from the things that he doesn't want to do. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Richard, and here we go. Hello, Richard. Oh, I will unmute you. There you go. Can we hear you now?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yes, we can. How you doing?
I'm fine, Gavin. Thanks a million. Good to be here.
Good, and thanks for joining us. How's your weekend? Have you been up to much?
Yeah, spent with the family in the sun in lockdown in Aberdeen, but yeah, looking forward to the new working week as well. For a cracking weekend up here, so really can't complain about the weather. To be fair,
I think Aberdeen being back in local lockdown, it's troubling times, but ultimately, I suppose we just have to listen to the best advice so that we can all get through this, and hopefully we can be clear of it at some point in the near future.
That's right. I think the important thing is we will get through it, isn't it? And just focus on that, and we're all good.
How's your business been impacted? Have you been impacted? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, we really have. It's quite an interesting one. So I think there was an initial kind of three brackets. There was the panickers, that kind of stop what you're doing, stop now, and don't go forward with anything. That's the job cancelled, if you like. And then there was the holders. There was like, look, brakes on, can't do anything now. We need to revisit this at a point in time. And then there was the opportunists. I always speak about them as well, who were like, "Oh, is this a wee chance to kind of move things forward? Or you may be so busy, or whatever." So it was really quite interesting, Gavin, the three brands. And to be perfectly honest with you, we've got some wonderful customers that have really looked after us well through the period. We've managed to do some new business completely virtually as well, which has been really good. And you never pretend it's not without its challenges, but my goodness, an opportunity to innovate and understand that kind of beautiful blend between this type of thing, this sort of forum and online ways of working, and getting together face to face as well. And my biggest learning, if I may, I think, not with regards to home building or renovation, but the use of the office that I've spoken about largely, and that kind of match of who needs to be in there when, and hugely fascinating area to see how we live, work and play in the future, which is all sort of connected back to definitely how we live. So yeah, interesting times for sure.
And do you think you might look at your office in a slightly different way in the future? I mean, do you have maybe
So
part of working, or do you guys have to be in the office?
no, absolutely. So just before lockdown, we were sort of had terms for knocking a hole in the wall and extending the office, and complete kind of 360 on it, where coming together is still really important. I think for any business, that kind of teamness, creativity, innovation that happens on a face-to-face level. I think there's a magic in there somewhere that I think we actually get from clients. I'm going to talk a wee bit about that later. Being in the room with someone that bouncing those ideas around, I think is massively valuable. But again, in most businesses, there's a product. So, and our product happens to be delivering design. So in order to do that, the guys need to be really focusing in. And I believe that to do that from home, I think we've probably seen examples as well where they've been a lot more productive at home, doing the focused work. But where we've lost out has probably been the coming together, the creativity as a team. But there's no doubt that blend, I don't know if it's 40% in the office, 60% at home, but I would be bold enough to say that the majority of what we do could be done out with the office when you factor in things like site visits, client meetings, and all the stuff that happens out with the office anyway. But there's no doubt that coming into the office to do that innovation, that creativity piece, that team meet piece needs to happen in person. But as for size of office, absolutely, this is going to be plenty big enough for us for the foreseeable as a consequence of COVID. And yeah,
you guys are quite funky. Your office space. You are very funky. You really practice what you preach in terms of coming together to be creative, don't you?
So I think it's walking your talk is something that we really believe in. And I again, sort of what are we to talk about in terms of how you do your property and things as well. It really is an opportunity to be a deeper reflection of who you are. So it's an embodiment of, for our business, an embodiment of our brand. But when we talk about people's homes and where they live, it's an embodiment of them and how they wish to live. So it's very, very important to us. I think as architects it's fine, but as Tinto particularly, that the human element of what we do comes through at every turn. And we have to kind of walk our talk, I think, to be able to do it for other people.
Good. Well, just you touched on it, and we will be kind of discussing the ins and outs of a self-build or renovation, and maybe comparing it to the traditional move element of it as well. Yeah. So I think we're going to have a wee presentation from you guys just for a few minutes, and then we're going to have a wee discussion after that, just to cover over what people are probably thinking when they're looking at a self-build renovation, or just thinking, I need to move. So it should be a really good, interesting conversation. Again, just to encourage people, if they want to ask any questions, feel free just to pop a wee comment in the comments field, and we'll pick them up as well. So Richard, if you want to share your screen, I'll pop it up on the screen.
Cool. So just do that. Share. There. And can you see that? Yeah. Ooh. Okay, you got that, Gavin? Yeah.
Technology works. Excellent. Absolutely brilliant. Take off a bit.
Absolutely, always a slight quiver at that point. But all I really want to do with the presentation is just to kind of put a bit of context for anyone that doesn't know about Tinto, by way of introduction to who we are, what we stand for, and a couple of faces to the names, and hopefully just frame the conversation that we're going to have. So I promise it won't be death by PowerPoint. It will be very, very short, sharp, and to the point. So I'll just move through. So Tinto as a practice do residential work. We do a lot of detail leisure work as well, and we do a lot of commercial work. And we believe that the learning that we gain from all the different sectors add value to each of those sectors. So it's not uncommon to see an idea that was stolen from an office design in a house, and vice versa. And by understanding our customers, we believe that's where the magic happens. Is constantly learning, constantly pulling ideas from every sector that we're in, and wider sectors to deliver on our product. So started as architects. And again, there's a a kind of desire to revolutionise the industry is not too strong a term. I used to apologise for saying that, but I won't, because I believe that it's very easy to leave something like a BMW. Now, that's a beige magnolia white from a beautiful piece of architecture and a wonderful concept. But we felt that we should be complementing our core service. So I've always been a big fan of interiors, intrinsic in architecture, but actually a lot more. So we added an interior arm to the business about 5 years ago, really successfully. Got a couple of cracking interior designers. And the interiors go hand in hand with the architecture. So in terms of a design sense, we're not leaving people with BMWs. Interestingly, I drive a white one, which says its own thing. But so be. Well, so and then finally the project management element. So that's born from not being as good as our last set of designs, but actually being as good as our last delivered project. And again, I think it's that sort of circular approach to making sure that the customers we work with buy into the way that we work, buy in to the process or the journey that they're going to enter into, and that we try not to leave any gaps behind. We feel that there's a huge value to that. So when we're meeting customers, we're genuinely not looking to be compared apples for apples with traditional practices. We're trying to suggest that if you lean in on us, then we'll take care of you. We'll guide you through whatever story it is that you want to create, and that's particularly pertinent for our private residential clients. And this is a wee phrase that I came up with that I think is pertinent to the overall desire of the business. And it's been easy to become cynical and frustrated and resigned to mediocrity in the construction sector. And I think it's just synonymous of the sector that we work in. It is improving, but I'm bold enough and confident enough to say that it still lags behind many other developing sectors massively. And there's no reason why it can't be changed. And there's no reason why a business like ours can't lead that. There's no reason why architects themselves can't lead a seismic change in creating better buildings. And as I said, that the way that we do that is by understanding the human benefit, the people element to everything that we do, and knowing our clients well, knowing the projects that we do will deliver a better world. And really that's what we're all about. That's what most businesses exist to do, and architecture should be no different to that. So how do we do that? Well, we have a way, and again, it's a Tinto way. It's founded on tradition. It's founded on the way that the architects work in terms of our IBA plans our work, and lots of technical documentation that can easily overwhelm customers. So what we've done is we've stripped it back, and we've come up with a similar phasing to that which traditionally aligns. And what we're trying to do is just to make it a little bit more personable, just to say to people, you don't need to worry about that because we've got it. You enjoy the fun bits of what we do, and we'll take care of the rest. So you enjoy the Pinterests, the meetings, the dropping in and out of the process, and you can be assured that there's a fairly professional and robust set of architectural and project management professionals sitting behind it. So this is just what we call our journey map, which takes those traditional stages and tries to humanise them a wee bit, just for our customers.
And then that kind of works for most projects, or do you have to customize?
Yeah, so again, I think it's a belief, Gavin, that everyone sits somewhere within this process, and when we meet you for the first time, we do something called a discovery call, and we're not really wanting to talk about the nuts and bolts of what it is that you're wanting to do. We're wanting to understand why it is you're doing what you're doing, and be respectful of the fact that Tinto is not the right fit for everyone, and we're not the right fit. And conversely, we're not looking for every customer as well, but there is a position for everyone within this. And if we can spend the time getting to know people and getting to understand what it is that they want, then I believe that there's a section in here that suits them really quite well. And as I said, from an architectural perspective, this is a Tinto iteration, a Tintoism of a very traditional way of working. And as I said, if for example someone does just want a set of drawings, then it's something that we can do. But our desire is to work with customers who buy into the overall process and understand the value that comes with that. And again, that high end resi and new build market is certainly a bit of a sweet spot when it comes to our residential portfolio. And as I said, we're not a traditional practice, so we've got a bit of an interior offering that we feel just takes a base level design and moves it to be even more customer centric. It doesn't leave you guessing. And again, to sort of butt heads a little bit with some of those aspirational movers, we genuinely believe that you can create any look anywhere that you've seen with working with an interior team to finish off what it is that you're doing. And then project management wise as well is another sort of suite that all architects do, all kind of practices will do, but something probably that we try and differentiate ourselves a little bit with. And it's just a wee sort of breakdown of the extra services in there. And the reason that I share this is just that the information is now out there, and that people can have a look at it, and they can pick up the phone and ask me any questions they want around it at any time. And then just another wee curveball that we introduced a couple of years ago was around kitchens. So the ethos with this being that kitchens often sit at the heart of the home, and probably 80+% of the private residential work that we do on the improvement and renovation side, extension side, centre around the heart of the home, which is always the kitchen. Interestingly, we found that on a social level, so sort of social retail, where we're doing a lot of kind of shop design and hospitality design. There's a bar in hospitality, but there's a kind of customer service point in retail that the kind of experience has become a lot more prominent in that. Now, it's not a kitchen, but if you kind of take the kitchen analogy and transfer that to a social experience when you visit somewhere out with your home, and then again flip it to what I just spoke about in terms of what we believe is a practice and why we think an office is super important. That coming together, people generally come together in life in a kitchen. It's eating, drinking, and socializing is the most wonderful human experience. So it would be completely counterintuitive not to have considered the opportunity that was presented to us on having a wee bit of exclusivity over this product of Next 125. And as I said, by offering some kitchen design, I think we add a wee bit of value to the process of renovating or building. To the girls that I have in here are ex-kitchen designers, or they're not ex-kitchen designers, they're still very much kitchen designers. And as I said, getting the kitchen right can just be that intangible part about that finished project that can be not always overlooked, that can be externalized, because someone has to then go and speak to a kitchen showroom, and the ideas bumped together. The vision of the architect or the vision of the designer can sometimes be a little bit lost in that. So the kitchens we feel is fundamental to the residential work that we do, but increasingly in the commercial and retail work as well. And I'm just going to round off with a wee bit more on the team. These are the faces that you'll meet. We've got a team of 13 at the moment, and hopefully going to be one more by Christmas. And these are the lead guys that I have, and it's always nice just to put a wee face to the name. People may be a little bit sick of seeing me all over social media, but I've got a pretty good team of people behind me, and below them a team of young, ambitious, and keen to change the world individuals as well. So yeah, I thought it was just worth sharing that, Gavin. That's the presentation finished. Just to maybe, as I said, for people that are not familiar with Tinto, just to become a little bit more familiar with what we do. Architects are our core, but very much. Let's be back seeing you now. I was a wee bit stuck in cyberspace there.
It's interesting how you talk about the integration of the kitchen, because ultimately that's probably one of the differences you get with architectural practices is you get project management companies, you get architects, you get all the different strands of not just a new build, but a restoration as well, renovation. Yeah. The kitchen, as you say, is an integral part of the home. So by bringing that part into your service as well, it surely removes a lot of pain from the client side.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, it is 80+%, I think, of people that enter into the process. Certainly from a renovation or an extension perspective, who are tired of the kitchen that they have, and want that to be the focal point, because actually it's very often the single biggest elemental spend within a project as well. So that elemental kitchen spend is is the cost of a new car, and some in some instances. So as to kind of overlook it, or to kind of try and remove it from the Tinto kind of journey, we feel not a cop out, but we feel it's an opportunity for people maybe just to get a wee bit more from the whole thing, and it kind of, again, it sort of underpins the kind of why around people do choose to sort of renovate or build. We're looking to improve their life in some shape or form.
What would you say is the kind of pinch point in someone's decision about whether they should build a brand new home, or whether they should restore, renovate, or even just move? I mean, what is that decision process?
I think most of our customers are aspirational. I think everyone wants to improve, themselves, wants to improve their kind of circumstances, etc. within life. And the time that we spend at home, even more so over the last few months, is quite large. So to have a base that is reflective of you, and kind of makes you your best self, is usually the driver. There's the aspirational part around people seeing new housing, show homes, etc., and the way that people live, and the way that these homes have been designed has changed massively as well. Open plan living, kitchen, dining arrangements are, again, probably the single biggest request that we get, whether that's through extending or just actually pushing some walls around or redefining space. And I think it is a shift towards spending time as a family, but also time apart as well. So coming together in these spaces, but also having them defined by the way that people want to live is quite important. And the base point of an improver, I always think, is someone who's got a good risk tolerance, I think, as well. The fact that you're in a home that you love, you might be in an area that you love, and that you've got the ambition to improve, says a lot about the person themselves, and the type of person that we want to work with, Gavin. Because there are the movers, and a lot of again, probably 50% of the inquiries we get for private residential work are people saying, will we move or will we improve? And it's a great question. And if you're slightly more risk averse, if your profile's slightly different, then you will move. And I always try and encourage people, if that's the best for them, that's what they should do. It can be financial, it can be family, it can be all manner of different reasons, where you are isn't suitable for renovating or extending, or indeed, there's a tipping point sometimes with these things where it's knock it down and start again if it's not a pure self-build somewhere else. So the self-build is slightly different customer profile. I think a lot of people dream of kind of designing and building their own home, but I think the great thing, or the similarity between improvers and builders as opposed to movers, is that where they've got this real desire to kind of improve the status quo, improve their lives, and as I said, that sort of magic person is where we work, and sometimes people are super keen to lean into that process to get to the end of a bit of exploration and still choose to move. And again, I think that's really okay, because I think from our perspective and any designer's perspective, you've really given them value through that process of getting to the bottom of what it is that they want to do. Yeah.
I guess you can't take your neighbours with you. I mean, obviously the whole move is quite significant. I mean, if you can get by, let's say if you've got a large plot, you could potentially develop into some sort of temporary home on the land. It really is quite exciting. The elements of it and the stress, albeit a self-build is extremely stressful, but so is a move. And I think the move is hugely it's a huge gamble compared to self-build, and a renovation as well, because there's so many things you could do with your existing home. You could tweak it, you could obviously knock it down, or you could build.
I think you're absolutely right, Gavin, and part of the joy of working with an architect is getting that value out. So just going to the movers for a moment, they kind of want the kind of in the box finish, but we won't on day one give you absolutely everything you want with the first design that you see. But if you're willing to kind of bump together with us, if you're willing to kind of share the ideas, do the kind of co-creation process that we offer, work on an iterative basis to kind of eke out the magic that exists within your own property, then my goodness, I swear that you can almost do anything with anything on an existing property. And again, if you're looking to build for yourself, on the self-build basis, the blank sheet of paper can be a little bit overwhelming, but if you've got that energy to kind of again bump the ideas together, we're only ever the guide. The customers are the heroes to their own story. We just kind of guide them through that. We take away the kind of the fears, the overwhelm, and just kind of get them excited about the key points in that journey. And as I said, is it a missed opportunity just to up and move? Maybe it is, without first really considering where you are. Now, again, that's not for everyone. But if you're serious about moving or improving, then I believe that you can lean into the improve process. And again, 9 times out of 10, we'd be advising that you can do something with this, and then lovingly pass those on to move who can. And yeah, that new builder thereafter, slightly different profile, because as I said, I think sometimes we come across great big projects which have a threshold where actually it's actually more cost effective to build, knock down and start again, and that does happen to us. Wow. And then there are those that have just always aspired to kind of a different lifestyle, whether semi-rural, whether suburban, or in the countryside, that want to live in a new house.
And you mentioned at the start about the discovery phase. What was the stage 0 of your
yeah. So it's just understanding that your home is usually the single biggest investment that you have for many people. And again, the type of people that we're dealing with are generally aspirational, so they're growing as families, or they're looking to make a real lifestyle investment. So I don't believe you can compare it to like X new house against Y new house, or like a BMW or an Audi. I think that going on a little bit of discovery is really important. And one of the questions that we ask very early on is what success looks like for them, and that's not 4 walls on a roof. That's actually what we're looking to get there, is how they will feel at the back end of that. So I'm going to have a dinner party, or I'm going to have my wine fridge there, and the kids are going to have a space to play, or I'm going to be able to have my home office over there, or my gym over here, and suddenly sort of eke that lifestyle out, that becomes the kind of motivation for doing the project. And again, allowing all the kind of technicalities and the kind of design skill that kind of sit behind that. But if we understand that part, then I think it gives you a really great focal point for moving forward, Gavin. And sometimes that can be missed by I need a conservatory, or I need an extension, or I want X size of house. I said, well, hold on a second. One of my biggest challenges to people is, do you actually even need to extend your house? Because I'll ask anyone watching, what do you use your dining room for? Now for 60 to 70% of the people that we go and see, it's got ironing board, it's a home study, it's a laundry store, it's a dumping ground, etc. It only ever get used on your Christmas or your birthday, and then it's a struggle to put whatever you want. By removing the wall between your kitchen and your dining room, you're freeing up the potential to imagine that space being used. You're giving yourself the opportunity to work with your family, have dinner with your family in a social environment. But on a technical level, you're probably freeing up 2 meters of extra space, a meter either side of that wall, that you don't even use anyway. So you want a 2 meter extension, knock a wall between your dining room and your kitchen down. It's interesting, isn't it?
It's probably a new office as well now. Really, I've seen.
Absolutely.
You're right. I mean, it is a case of thinking realistically. What do you use your house for? What functional space? Because you mentioned there about upsizing, but you could also be downsizing, I guess, if not to stereotype anybody at all, but you may be at a certain part of your life that the kids are moving out. You maybe reconfigure your home, or it may be that the move is the right answer. But
you're absolutely right, Gavin. We've got a project in the West End at the moment where it's sort of downsizing. Big 5-bedroom, 3-story sort of townhouse, and a couple are looking to downsize. So they're moving to another property which we're renovating for them. But fundamental importance are thinking finitely or infinitely about when the toilet needs to be on the ground floor and the bedroom needs to be on the ground floor, and when you can just open the big slidey doors and go out to the garden. So you're absolutely right. It works both ways. It's that full sort of lifestyle or life cycle of you as a person, and often when we're designing things. So even new build houses, for example, the base point is right. That's what you need now for the next 5 years. If your children are young, then you're there, or if you're retiring, you're here. But what does that look like in 5, 10, or 15 years' time? And again, it ties very closely through to the move argument. Should you actually just be moving because you'll never achieve what you want to achieve from where you are? So beginning with the end in mind is really important. And again, the investment that comes from a renovation or an extension in particular needs to be thought through. It's never a short-term investment, I don't believe. To get the real value from them, you need to be thinking medium-term with these things. Or as you mentioned, in those that are in the kind of more mature phase and looking to downsize, they're looking at that foreverness. So yeah, really good point.
So I'm thinking, what do I do? Where do I start? So I've got this house, or I've not got this house, or I've got a plot of land, or whatever. What should I be thinking about before I should even start talking to people like you?
Relationships, I think not having a full idea of what you want is perfectly acceptable, because you're not the expert. To have the idea is plenty for you. I think meet as many architects, designers as you can. It's not just architects, that are architectural technologists and guys that can do very similar things for you. So make sure that you get the relationship right. Make sure that you get the relationship right with the architect. Make sure that you understand the process and be happy with the process as well. And if you get the right guy to work with, or the right team to work with, then I think a lot of that overwhelm can be released. And also to understand that in 6 months' time, you're not going to be sitting in your new extension or your new house. Realistically, your timeline for £100,000 extension, I would say, is kind of 12 months from start to finish. New build house, probably 18 months. By the time you start drawing to the time that you're moving in. And actually, what we would always say as well is, if you have the idea right, if you have the relationship right with whoever you would wish to work with, and allow the process to happen. We are trained in creating great things, but we're only half of the story, Gavin, and the other half, and actually the most important half, are the customers that we work with. So the involvement there should be enough to allow us to kind of create. And again, it's something that we probably again, to make no apology, we kind of labor on it, as saying, right, let's get the Pinterest out, the sticky notes, that work it for what it needs to be before we kind of go too far into the process. And I think people suddenly have like little eureka moments from time to time. It's like, right, that's what he was talking about, or that's what they were talking about, and often that doesn't come if you rush it. And as I said, that's where a company like our own isn't always the best fit for someone who has got a very, very fixed mindset, preconceived idea about what they need and when. And you can try and fit a square through a circle peg, but if it ain't going to go, it ain't going to go. So to know that early is the most honest and fair way for everyone. And again, that removes the overwhelm of a wrong fit as well. But for anyone that's understanding that it's a lengthy process, again, maybe the single biggest investment that you will ever make, then they understand that time is actually a benefit, and time to build a relationship with your architect, your design team, ultimately with your builder, is going to be really, really important to the overall success, because it doesn't really come down to the architect. I always talk about a triage, of architects, contractors, and clients, and there's a wee bit of magic that sits in the middle of that triangle. And if it's open, honest, and exciting, then it's one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. It genuinely is.
I think ultimately that starting off of the journey is the most important part, because if you get that wrong, that obviously has ramifications all the way through the project, if there is a project, but
if there is a project, yeah. And
so
to know that early apologies. So to know that early is again vitally important. If it's not going to be a thing, then we all move on. And again, you look back on it and you're really glad that you all moved on. If it's not going to be a thing, I think so. Yeah.
And have you had clients that got started on one way and then ended up in a completely different place? I mean,
absolutely. Yes, is the honest answer. So I think, so I wouldn't want anyone to hang me on the numbers here, but I think, certain large scale kind of renovation or extension projects have a tipping point where they become new build projects. And again, depending where you are, each case is very, very individual. But I think if you're starting to see spends of upwards of £250,000, by the time you've added VAT to that, then you can be building, or there's evidence emerging that you can be building modest homes for that sort of value. And when there's no VAT applicable there, when the design criteria for new build homes is improving all the time, then not only is the capital cost less, but your actual ongoing running costs become a lot more efficient as well. So yes is the honest answer. And we've had probably, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years, probably 5 projects of that ilk that have turned into new build houses over that period of time. And some don't, some budgets go, 3, 4, 5, £600,000 for the extend or renovate. But again, it's all relative. But there's definitely a threshold. If you're in a more traditional property in the countryside, and you like that lifestyle, and you go on a bit of a journey to renovate or upgrade, then there is a tipping point where it becomes a serious conversation, and there's a practical element to it as well. And it's something that we fully embrace. And
has it ever been so far down the path that you have to continue the same path in construction or
yeah? I mean, again, for the sake of being honest, we've probably got to the point where we've missed out on a build, and probably everyone's left a wee bit underwhelmed because it has went to that point. So a few years ago now, but I think my advice now would be to kind of flush it out a lot earlier. So one of those first key exercises in getting the relationship right with the agent's horrible, but the architect or the designer or whoever's going to basically manage this project for you is the first thing. The second thing is to lean into that initial kind of conceptual piece. Understand that we could get it right in our head first time, but actually it's probably going to take 2 or 3 iterations to get it right in both of our mind's eye, and then to get the cost verified, cheaply and quickly, and to understand exactly what it is that we're doing, Gavin. And as I said, it can be easy to get carried away without a really sort of early sense check on budget. External QS will bring it into stark reality, and one of my favourite QSs who I'll go unnamed for the purposes of this, but he'll always sit down at the start of a meeting and say, right, I'm going to start with a big scary number, and we can work back from there. And I think it's a really nice way of putting it. It's sort of going into it with your eyes wide open, understanding that this is what you're trying to do, and actually at the end of the day it will cost you this, and but it doesn't have to cost you all that at day one, and there are creative ways of making things happen, but yeah, again, verifying where you're going really early on was a lesson that we learned quite early on. Is something that we're really passionate as well. And again, I would urge anyone entering into the process to try and accept that an initial kind of sense check is a really sensible way to do it, and don't hold back on it. If someone's telling you that something's going to cost a couple of grand a square metre, £2,500 a square metre, £3,000 per square metre, listen to that advice, because usually they're right, and they've been there before with it. If that sort of reaches a threshold for you, then it's probably time to step back. If you're looking to move on, then creatively our job is to then make that work for you. And I suppose one of the great things about flipping from an extension or a renovation to a new build is that your space efficiency becomes great, and the rate to build comes down as well. So there's a VAT saving, the rate to build comes down, and by designing from a blank sheet of paper, you can create a much more space efficient environment for a customer too, and really give them a sort of a dream scenario at the backside. But that's probably the favourite one. We've got a project at the moment in rural Aberdeenshire for a couple who have got this vision, but it's like a 15-year vision. It's a really cool thing, and they understand that their ultimate build is going to be right up there. So the way that we've broken it down is into various elements to kind of give them what they need now, give them what they need in the future, and then there's this hypothesis where vanity overtakes sanity for them, and they can have a little bit more. And it's a really nice way of viewing it. And again, it's a customer mindset that we like to work with, is to say that we're going to go on a journey here, we're going to get to where we want to be, and the investment that we're going to make is probably going to be the singular biggest one we'll do in that ilk for all time. So, and that comes back to the relationship, the trust, understanding it, to being guided through it, and not feeling overwhelmed by it or scared by it, because it is the most rewarding thing, one of the most rewarding things that you'll ever do. I kind of, just because I'm super passionate, but I kind of forget that folk have other motivations in life.
You're right enough. I guess the takeaway I've got from this stage is essentially don't underestimate the time that you should take to get it right at the very start. The discovery phase is so important, and that's really quite cool what you just talked about, that rural couple. If they can map out their life and they're going to use their home, their forever home, to actually use this investment now to phase out their life essentially in a nice way. But it's really forward thinking.
And it's also very sustainable as well. So one of the things that we're really passionate about is kind of keep in check on the world that we have now. I don't need to kind of decry the kind of footprint or whatever that new development can have on our world. So redevelopment of what we have is a very, very sustainable way to achieve a healthier planet. The construction industry, I'm not a huge fan of. Its wastefulness, its legacy, and it, as I said, it still lags behind. But in being creative about how we look after our old buildings, how we develop our old buildings, we're actually looking after the environment as a byproduct. So again, it's really important, and when you flip that to the new build bit as well, because of the way that the regulations have developed, then these buildings can perform very, very well, and you might have heard of the sort of carbon neutral term, but things like that are real, and we can live in a very, very sustainable way. And I would argue with anyone who was developing on the green belt or on undeveloped land, how they could justify or tell the same story. Things like their infrastructure to get to X amount of houses and all that are really interesting conversations. It's for another webinar, but it's really always inspires me to kind of say to people, look, if you can start with where you are, and you can get yourself feeling really good about it, then you're also giving the world a wee bit of a chance as well. And I think our customers of the future, we've got a lot of skin left in the game, I always say. So our customers of the future are really tuned into that. The customers of now are, but customers of the future are really, really tuned into that. And that's a massively exciting opportunity for architects and the whole self-build and renovation marketplace to understand the benefits that come from self-building and renovation, and how very good for the environment it actually is, Gavin.
Yeah, you talked about the carbon neutral aspect as well. I mean, how, when you include that into your decision process about whether you new build, renovation, restoration, and or move, I mean, how do you quantify the benefits? Can you still have a carbon neutral conversion of an existing home?
I think I could really go off on a tangent here. It's an area that I'm really, really passionate about. So, not yet, but I believe that you will be able to, and I believe that it comes down to collecting the data correctly. So there's emerging work being done on understanding. So say, for example, you've got a 100-year-old house that has got inherent problems with air leakage or insulation or water ingress. It just doesn't perform very well. The heating bills are through the roof, etc. And we come along and we add a an extension to that. Well, right now we really only have to make sure that the extension performs, better than the rest of the house. There are certain criteria that means we need to pull the rest of that house up, but to answer your question, is it will never perform as well as potentially doing it with a completely new build, because you're not obliged to swap out all your windows. You're not obliged to make the house airtight. You're just obliged to work certain standards to allow it to come up and meet where it needs to be. But I think that there are grants to upgrade old properties. There are ways of doing it. And also, if we use the technology in surveying and scanning of buildings, then we can get a very, very accurate picture of how these buildings perform. And where utopia lies for me is then going back to the building regs, basically, or to the government, and saying, look, here's a better way of making sure that existing properties perform better for all time. We're not experts in it. It's a developing area, but it's something that I'd be lying if I said didn't excite me. And as I said, make the whole process of improving or extending again just a wee bit more environmentally friendly. So yeah, I think watch this space, and that's one of the biggest opportunities, I think, is to work with what we have. And you see the market for window replacement, insulation, air tightness, all these things keep creeping in. It's very, very sustainable to protect the stock that we have because of the wider impact of building elsewhere. So we've got a role to play in that. And I think customers like that, and as I said, I think even 3 years time we'll probably look back and there'll be different ways and better ways of doing it, Gavin.
Is that something you can quantify at the discovery phase? So I'm thinking here about money. Actually, that's kind of, I'm thinking, right, okay, well, if I go for a new build, it's going to be, let's just say 100% efficient in terms of operating costs and insulation, all these things. I'm going to live in the house for another 60 years. And over that 60 years, is there a way of being able to quantify the cost saving, if you like, over that period, over an existing home?
Again, very difficult right now, and I couldn't. So just being really honest, and I don't know if anyone can. So if anyone can you reach out and tell me how we do it? But I do believe that we can through accurate data collection. So that's understanding, the physical properties, the thermal properties, and the kind of air properties, all the different properties that contribute to the status quo of the building. And once we know what that data looks like through a model, so building information modeling and data capture is huge in our industry at the moment. And again, we're only scratching the surface of it as a practice. But again, there is a point in the future where I hope we'll be able to go into someone's house to meet them for the first time and leave with an accurate performance and dimensional model of that property that will allow us to achieve exactly what you say, Gavin, is to say, right, here is what you need to do insulation wise, here's what you need to do air wise, and here's what you need to do material specification wise to get a similar performance to that you might achieve from a new build. Capital cost, again, I think there's probably a way to go, but there's the two types of people, those that will stick or twisters, those that will stick and extend and renovate because of all the pre-existing social conditions that mean that they want to do that. There are those that will then wish to kind of create the dream of a self-build, and then you will have that tertiary part of movers who will do so in any case. But if we can be better at presenting the facts around the environmental benefit and the long-term benefit of existing properties, then that's cool stuff. That's living your purpose. That's delivering on making the world a better place through architecture, I believe.
Absolutely. So we're now moving away from design essentially and looking at all the other kind of parameters of this decision process, which can be overlooked or perhaps not discussed to any degree that it should be. I mean, it sounds like there is cost savings to be had. Not, it's not all about cost, it's about the environment as well. And we've all got a duty of care to save the planet. We shouldn't be, if there's an opportunity here for us to do a little bit, and that sways over a new build versus a renovation, restoration, then that can't be overlooked. It has to be looked at the very, very start. And if we could try and quantify the overall benefits, and that's something that could swing a yes.
I think it is, and I think, you know, flipping the whole question on its head is why are you doing what you're doing, and you know for us it's like what does success look like in your mind, and as I said, the environmental element sits fundamental to that, but the big why is why are you even doing what you're doing? What sort of lifestyle are you looking to create through a renovation, a self build, or an extension, and let's start there and work it back rather than starting at the bottom and working it up. And I think we certainly swear by it and live by it. It's kind of at the core of who we do. And I think, you know, going back to that relationship piece, getting comfortable with a designer or a team that can do that for you might be the most valuable thing that you can actually do, because that this is where you're going to stay. We never have to live in your house. You have to live there. You have to be you there. That's pretty big stuff, you know, in terms of your life, and as I said, it does. It can seem a bit like it's just my house, but it's not. It fundamentally is a part of who you are, and how happy you are, how well you are, how you view the rest of the world. So starting with that why, and making sure that that's solid is something that I'm passionate about, and I think most of our customers are as well.
And so you've made the decision. You're saying that now we're going to do whatever we're going to do. You guys are obviously going to be there as part of the journey, so you're gonna control it, because that's probably one of the other kind of stresses of anyone thinking about a self build or a renovation project. It's going to be the whole process, and I think people get bogged down thinking I'm going to have to manage this, but that's not strictly the case.
No, and as I said, you know, there's on the architect's form of agreement, there's a wee line that says project management. Are we going to project management? Well, I think what the ethos that we've adopted is that we are the guide. You know, you are the hero in your story, and you will have to make fun decisions and human decisions that will inform us. But our job is to guide you through that, and that's good project management. So from a design perspective, from an ideas perspective, it's making sure that we manage the flow of ideas and pick off the best ones and verify it and check with it. It means that we manage the bit in the middle, the legislative stuff, your planning permissions and your building warrants, all of which I don't wish to kind of dampen down the value of, but are legislative things that are kind of technical challenges to the overall why. And then as we move beyond those pieces, it's then saying, right, how are we going to manage, you know, your investment, your life investment, your big investment, your big why? How are we going to manage that to a good conclusion, to the point where it's never as good as the design, it's actually as good as the whole experience, and managing that for customers means making sure that when we add the contractor element, sometimes adding the builder element back to that triangle needs to be done much earlier on in the process. And again, the conventional form of traditional tendering and stuff can leave you at the lap of not anyone, but it can open up risk that you don't have the same relationship with your contractor that you enjoy with the architect, and it all breaks down. So making sure that you build those relationships as you go, and build the ideas as you go. And as I said, the kind of story kind of goes up in incremental stages through it. Doesn't just arrive at the end. Is probably the best way of doing that. Open and honest communication. Again, that communication circle is use the architect for what he's there to do. If you're paying him to project manage, make sure that he does project manage. And as I said, if you can get the relationship right with the builder, as I said, it's a beautiful place to be, and some of the results that you can get are just absolutely out of this world, Gavin.
Yeah, and the leveraging the experience. I mean, you can see the theme of my questions, but it's all, I'm a quantity surveyor, so it's all cost for me. But at the end of the day, some people may see the project management percentage, if you like, of your fee as being quite costly. However, you can't underestimate the value that you and your team bring to the project in terms of leveraging experience.
I always use the classic project management analogy of you know, standing in your kitchen in the morning before you go out to work. You're going to go out for the next 10 hours. You're going to leave the builder there, and you know the Sparky says to you, it'd be a great idea to bang a few double sockets in there, and when I'm at it, I'll just throw a few spotlights and that LED strip around the bottom. And you're thinking, yes. You know, and then the interim bill comes in at the end of the month, and it's, you know, a couple of grand more. It sounds funny and silly, but it's not. It's actually you are emotionally involved in what you're doing, and you should be, because it is the single biggest investment that you're making. So allowing the management of that to occur, allowing the diligence to sort of follow through. Contract admin is one thing, but project management we view as something very, very different, where you're taking responsibility for delivering for your customers with your cost consultants on there. And it's not, hey, look, it's building. The industry is not showered in glory for being as it should be, and as I believe it should be. So project management is a great tool to de-risk a lot of what you do. And as I said, for us, it's been a huge benefit in looking back at the end of the projects and clients saying, we're really, really happy with that because you had a bit more input. We paid you to be a bit more involved, and you really, really kind of pulled that home. So our experience was better of a consequence. Do you put a monetary value on that? I don't think you can, because you're not really dealing with money. You're dealing with people's lives, Gavin.
Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the clock here, so we're 5 minutes. We're going to have to wrap up very soon. But I'm just thinking about summarising what we talked about. So we talked about the start of the journey. We talked about not underestimating the thought process and really sitting down with yourselves as a family, then engaging with architect or architects and understanding exactly what are the options here. Is there any options for renovation, or is it self-build, or is it a case that I have to move? And really taking your time. I mean, I guess some people really sit for years and discuss this to understand what are they doing in their life, and then they can actually look at their project and say, right, what do we need to do over here? So that is interesting, because it could take as much time as it does to actually do the build or to do the project. So engaging the experts, there is a cost associated with it, but actually that could leverage huge value in terms of the decision process, but also the project itself. And it may end up being that the move is the right move for you as well. So and ultimately just having fun. I think we've touched on it very briefly, but this is stressful, but again, it should be a fun experience. This is a really exciting, innovative thing to do. You have opportunities to really understand the building industry as well, the energy efficiency of your home, and really contributing towards the greener environment and saving the planet in a tree huggy type way. But it's true. It's absolutely true. And it's exciting. That part for me really is the exciting part, because it's not just about the cost. It is actually about doing your part, for the environment.
Absolutely.
So, great. Well, that was fantastic. Listen, we're going to run out of time, so there were a couple of questions came in, but we'll take them offline and we'll post them onto the social media channels. Thank you very much, Richard. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Have you got anything you wanted to kind of close off?
I can't believe where the hours went. I think you summarised really well there. Doing a self build, a renovation, or an extension is a wonderful opportunity to a once in a lifetime opportunity often to really create the life that you want. And if you can do that whilst you're having a whole chunk of fun and making the world a better place, then that's a pretty cool thing. And if anyone would like to ask me any questions, please give Tinto a shout, and be delighted to hear from anyone that thinks that's a cool thing too.
How do they get in touch with you, Richard?
www.tinto.co.uk is the website. We've got a pretty good kind of link through on the website there, so feel free to do that. And if you want to drop myself an email on richard.tinto@tinto.co.uk, I'll make sure that you're pointed in the right direction, and that someone gets a questionnaire out to you, and we set up a wee discovery call. And delighted to have a discovery call with anyone who's thinking about such a project, or wants to tell me what they thought of tonight, any feedback that they've got. I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Gavin.
Okay. So that is it for this week. I thank again Richard from Tinto Architecture for joining us. If you do want to kind of cover anything or review anything that's been discussed tonight, You can, in a short while, I think this gets posted automatically on the Facebook channel and also on YouTube, so you can see it later on tonight. And then, of course, it will also be in our podcast channels. If you are driving around or going for a run, you can pick it up on the podcast channel as well. For those of you interested, we also have a Facebook community group where you can seek advice at any time. People like Richard are on there, so if you have any questions, by all means, use the Facebook group. It's the community group within Scottish Self-Build Facebook page. Just kind of join it. It's all free, and there's some really good conversations going on there. Our next programme is on Sunday the 23rd of August at 7 p.m. We will be joined by Neil Walker of the Highlands Small Communities Housing Trust. We'll be discussing the Scottish Government Self-Build Loan Fund, which has been launched to assist individuals experiencing difficulty in obtaining self-build mortgage finance. So not only will we be talking about the fund, but you also have the opportunity to ask any kind of financing questions as well. Remember to please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channels so that you can be the first to find out about our next programs. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe, and thank you very much. Take care.